First Steps in the Higher Life. Step 9. From James Allen's book, Out from the Heart. My name is Steve Van Eiderstein, and welcome to the narrowing path, walking the spiritual walk. Now, welcome if this is the first time seeing me. This is a channel that's about embracing, enlarging, and perfecting your spiritual way of living. And what we're going through is a book from an author named James Allen, written around 1908, I believe, and a book that had 10 steps for higher living in it, meaning 10 steps to take to start to begin your spiritual journey. And that's what we're going through. This is the 9th step that we're going to be talking about. And this is the second step of 3 of the third lesson. Okay, so first lesson was discipline of the body. Second was discipline of speech. This is discipline of inclination. So it was 2 steps in the first one, 5 steps in the second one. And now the last 3 steps are in this third lesson here. And these last 3 lessons, last week's was unselfish performance of duty. And then this week's is Unswerving Rectitude. Now, these last 3 lessons are about principles we need to practice in everyday life. The first 7 were primarily about stopping certain behaviors, replacing them with better ones. These are overall principles of how to be. So it's a little bit different for these last 3. So instead of just like bringing us to a neutral 0, saying, hey, stop gossiping, hey, stop being lazy, quit overindulging in things, right? Now we're saying, okay, now how are we to be? The first one, like we talked about last week, was the unselfish performance of duty. And this week, is unswerving rectitude. Absolutely incredible reading for today. I'm super excited to get into it. I have a lot of thoughts about this one. This is one I very much enjoyed reading again and going through, writing some notes down. So this will probably be a longer one than most times. So before we actually do the fullest reading, first I want to show you, I read out of this book on this podcast. This is a 1910s version of the book. You can also follow along on this type of book. This is a mass market reproduction I bought on Amazon. It had one word replacement that we've found so far, but overall it's pretty good. So before I do the reading, though, I wanted to define the 2 words in this step: unswerving and rectitude. Unswerving is pretty self-explanatory, but rectitude I did not believe was. It's a word that I was not very familiar with when I first read it. I still rarely ever hear. I think the only time I've ever heard it actually is in James Allen's writings, and maybe older writing as well, but it's not something commonly talked about today. So I wanted to give us a little bit of a definitions to get started with. So unswerving is means not deviating. So staying true, staying straight on the path. The narrowing path, some might say. And then rectitude, rightness of principles and practice, honesty, moral integrity. And it made me think of the term righteousness, which is very similarly related, and moral quality. So not deviating from rightness of principles and practice, honesty, and moral integrity. Okay, so that's what unswerving rectitude, those 2 words, expands out into, which is a lot of great stuff, it turns out, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let's go ahead. We're going to get into the full reading, and then we'll break it down. So here we go. This is the 9th step out of the chapter First Steps in the Higher Life in James Allen's book, Out from the Heart. The second step in the third lesson is the practice of unswerving rectitude. This virtue must be firmly established in the mind, and so enter into every detail of a man's life. All dishonesty, deception, trickery, and misrepresentation must be forever put away, and the heart be purged of every vestige of insincerity and subterfuge. The least swerving from the path of rectitude is a deviation from virtue. There must be no extravagance and exaggeration of speech, but the simple truth should be stated. Engaging in deception, no matter how apparently insignificant, for vainglory or for the hope of personal advantage, is a state of delusion which one should make efforts to dispel. It is demanded of the man of virtue that he shall not only practice the most rigid honesty in thought, word, and deed, but that he shall be exact in his statements, omitting and adding nothing to the actual truth. In thus shaping his mind to the principle of rectitude, he will gradually come to deal with people and things in a just and impartial spirit, considering equity before himself, and viewing all things with freedom from personal bias, passion, and prejudice. When the virtue of rectitude is fully practiced, acquired, and comprehended, so that all temptation to untruthfulness and insincerity has ceased, then the heart made pure and nobler. Then is the heart made pure and nobler. Then is character strengthened and knowledge enlarged, and life takes on new meaning and a new power. Thus is the second step accomplished. Wow. Wow. That is quite the reading. There is so much depth to that reading. There's so much truth to that reading. This principle, this step resonates with me very deeply. I believe this is truth. I know it to be truth from my experience, and it's incredible. I know he was writing only 120 years ago, but it just seems that this truth is so relevant to today's society and today's practice. You know, it's always been relevant. It's just become even more so as of late. And these are qualities that I fully believe are integral to my spiritual journey, to my life of sobriety, and are really the beginning steps to living a different way of life. You know, honesty is what this is talking about. Integrity are two virtues that I strive to embrace and practice in every moment of every day, because I used to not. I used to not have those, and it just destroyed everything. So I love that this steps gives us the word rectitude to use. Actually, like I said, it's not very widely used today, and it's actually kind of a shame. It sums up a lot of my own personal philosophy in just one principle, actually, and which personally I find encouraging. You know, because if I am practicing this step to the best of my ability, that means my life is still going to continue to change, and I'm going to continue to grow, and I'm still going to be a part of this whole spiritual walk, right? And the continued practice of this will continue to guide me, and I'll continue to grow and explore and uncover more truths about myself and the world in general. And it's been my personal experience and through my personal spiritual journey that this is one of the foremost things we have to keep involved in our life. One of the foremost principles we have to involve in our lives. So when you prioritize this, your life will change. Your life will change. So absolutely loved this reading. I hope you guys get as much out of this as I did. So let's get to it. Let's break this down a little bit. So the first lines than this was the second step. And the third lesson is the practice of unswerving rectitude. And then this virtue must be firmly established in the mind and so enter into every detail of a man's life. Starting off real strong here. Again, love James Allen because he doesn't mince words. He doesn't beat around the bush. He's very direct, straightforward, and gives it to you in very plain terms. He doesn't take an entire chapter to describe to you the importance of honesty and integrity in life. He takes one line to tell you this has to be practiced in every detail of a man's life. Is this unswerving rectitude, and it has to settle in the mind. It's not good enough just to take the right action, but still have a mind that's selfish and self-centered, not wanting to do the right thing. So the virtue must be firmly established in the mind, so firmly as well, like practiced, and so enter into every detail of a man's life. Because when it's up here, we can practice it everywhere. When we're just trying to go through the motions of doing the right thing, like we just take the right actions because someone told us it would be a good idea, that we don't agree with it or believe it, or we don't even understand the point of trying to take right actions, right? It's much different then. So if it's just a forced external change in behavior, it's not going to hold up. It's not going to stay. But if it settles firmly in the mind, guess what? It'll hold on. It'll get into every piece of your life, which is what he really is aiming for, right? So he's telling us this is a priority, and it has to start in your mind, right? And remember, this is how James Allen kind of has formulated all of his philosophy around. Actually, this stop the external actions, see the mind, change the thinking, see the heart, purify the heart. Like that's how this works. And then when you purify the heart, the changes in the mind and in the body become permanent. They become solid. They become entrenched in the right behaviors now. So he wants to take this principle, excuse me, he wants to take this principle and really drive it home to us that this is an essential thing we have to actually participate in. This is an essential practice we have to ingrain in our mind as necessary and important, and I'm going to talk about this multiple times throughout this episode, but it gets brought into every aspect of our lives as well. James Allen says every detail of a man's life. Not just in your family, but every aspect of every detail of your family interactions. Not just your work, but every detail of your work. Every relationship you have. Every practice that you do. Every action that you take, right? This isn't just sometimes. This isn't just when you find it appropriate. This doesn't mean when you find it convenient. This means every detail of a man's life. So all places, all the time, in all conversations with all people. This has to be practiced. When you do that, it comes or it sits in the mind and it becomes a way of living. It becomes your character. And this is really what we're aiming at here. And when you refine your character through habits and behaviors and correct thought, your heart becomes purified. Right? You see the selfishness in your heart and you start to remove it. And you ask the God of your understanding, or through prayer, through meditation, through whatever other spiritual practice that you have, inventory even, to come and help you with that. So remember, this needs to be firmly established in the mind and enter into every detail of a man's life. Every detail. There's no modification of that statement. It's every detail. So, pretty powerful stuff just to start the reading out with. So, then we get into a little bit more meat and potatoes, as I say. All dishonesty, deception, trickery, and misrepresentation must be forever put away, and the heart purged of every vestige of insincerity or subterfuge. Now, I want to just give another definition because not a common word heard today. Subterfuge, an evasion or artifice, which means maneuver, so to manipulate, trick or shift, like just to redirect, move the conversation, whatever it might be, right? So what he's really saying here is we have zero wiggle room on this. There is no place in this whole thing, or excuse me, there is no place in this step and in the practice of this step in every detail of our lives for us to intentionally choose not to practice it. There is no exceptions. There is no justified lies. There is no justified manipulation. There is no justified misrepresentation. There is no excuse for any of it. It's never appropriate. It's never right. Right? This is, Alan is informing us that the thoroughness that is really needed in the application of this unswerving rectitude, right? Like that all dishonesty, not just most of it, all of it, all deception, all trickery, all misrepresentation need to be forever put away, not just temporarily, not until it suits you, not until you decide you want to go back to it, right? If you want to pursue a virtuous life, if you want to live a spiritual life, if you want to walk that narrowing path, which is what this entire podcast is about, you have to forever put away all dishonesty, deception, trickery, and misrepresentation. You have to take off all of the masks. You have to be a person of integrity, an honest individual. You have to be the same authentic, genuine person to all that you meet, and learn how to navigate that, right? This is not a when you feel like type of circumstance. It is honesty and truth at all times. Now, I know that is very sometimes a difficult thing to embrace. I know it's scary, a scary idea to embrace, right? But people like to justify things because they don't want to be uncomfortable. But the reality is no form of deception is ever appropriate. And this means ever. This means ever. This means the little lies you think are innocent, right? So, and I know there's going to be a lot of people, as this happens in 12-step meetings all the time. This happens in general conversation all the time. And my take on this might not be well received. And I will be completely honest about that. But people bring up the relationship issue, and they're like, well, how do I look in this? And you always tell them great, regardless of what you actually think. I don't think that's true. I don't think you should ever lie to your partner, to your significant other, to a child. Tactful honesty to preserve your integrity will be more respected and carry you further in your own eyes, but more importantly, to your partner's eyes than you could really imagine. And just to say that little white lie to get out of an uncomfortable position, and we like to hide it maybe in, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to upset them. No, you just don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation that might ensue after you give an honest, but a tactful, but honest response to that question, if they're genuinely asking it, right? Because if you are willing to answer those types of small, uncomfortable questions with integrity and honesty, that means they can trust your opinion going forward. That means that they know when you say something, you mean it, and it's not just to avoid an uncomfortable situation. So, because what we're actually doing is telling somebody, because most of the time they know, they have an opinion, right? That, hey, I would rather lie to you than be uncomfortable or make you uncomfortable or upset you. I would rather lie to you. That kind of is a corrupting thread that goes through an entire relationship. And some people will say, I'm making a bigger deal out of this than it actually is. But I don't believe so. This is foundational pieces. If they cannot trust you to give an honest feedback on just how they look in an outfit, then how can they trust you with bigger decisions? How can they believe that you're going to follow through with what you say, right? It's not a fun conversation to have. I'm not trying to claim that by any means, but you have to have that integrity with your character and your soul. Because if not, if you cannot give an honest piece of feedback to your partner, when you actually give them a genuine compliment, it loses its value. Because a compliment is only valued because they know you're willing to not give a compliment if appropriate as well. It's the dynamic of the whole thing. That's how this whole thing works. If you want your word to count for anything, you have to be willing to engage in the uncomfortable conversations. That's just how this thing happens. And people will not like that, but that's going to have to be okay. And then people will say, well, what if telling the truth gets you in trouble? Like you've been dishonest at work, or you've broken the law and you're getting questioned about it, or whatever it might be. Well, first and foremost, stop doing stuff that's going to get you in trouble, right? That unselfish performance of duty we talked about last week. We need to embrace that first, or we need to, maybe not first, but we need to take a look at why we're doing things that we don't want to admit to. That's a problem. And it turns out, if you don't ever get the full consequences of your behaviors, you will probably never change them. So it's better to, if you want to change it, right? If you actually want to live an honest life with integrity without having this anxiety and fear plaguing you that everyone's going to find out at some point, or that you're going to get caught at some point, you live honestly and you live with integrity. You take the consequences that come from what you've done. All right? It's not fun, but guess what? It gives you the opportunity to have a more honest life. It gives you the opportunity to live back in reality. So, outright lies, even small ones, are not acceptable. Lies of omission are not acceptable. False presentation is not acceptable, right? When you just put on an act for somebody because you think you're going to present the person that you think they think you should be, right? Or you're going to put on the face of the person you think that they're going to like, right? So you can get their approval, or you can manipulate them into getting what you want out of them, or not get rejected, or whatever it might be, right? So false presentation is included with this, right? It says misrepresentation, and it's not acceptable. It's not okay. An integrous character demands authenticity. We do not get to back out on the authenticity piece of this whole thing just to serve our own selfish and self-centered desires. There is no manipulation or trickery or deception. This happens all the time. It happens at work, happens in first dates, it happens in relationships, it happens in friendships, it happens when the police pull you over and say, have you been drinking, right? It happens in all of those things. We need to stop this at all times. I had to stop this at all times. This was huge. Like I would lie when the truth would serve me better, and I didn't know why. It was just because I wanted to have some control over the situation, maybe, or it was I still didn't trust that the truth was going to do what I wanted it. So I wanted to control and manipulate. I wanted to have a guarantee of outcome from my own influence. And that's a horrible way to live, first and foremost. It will drive you insane. And you'll hurt a lot of people along the way. You'll break a lot of trust. You'll take a lot of actions that you regret in the end. So we need to practice unswerving rectitude at all times and get rid of it. And get rid of all, dishonesty, deception, trickery, and misrepresentation forever. Put it away. We have to stop the actions so we can change the thinking and purify the heart. That's what this whole thing's about. And, well, the name of the book is Out from the Heart, right? All of our thinking, words, and actions come from the heart. That's where they all originate. So these processes that we're talking about, especially these last three, are about purifying the heart with our intentional changes of behavior and thinking. And we're trying to remove the selfishness and self-centeredness from it. So let's go on to this next line. The least swerving from the path of rectitude is a deviation from virtue. So he's saying even the most minor deviation from the path of rectitude, of ultimate honesty and integrity and all of these great things, is abandoning virtue. Now people would be like, well, that seems a little bit much, doesn't it? That seems a little bit overbearing. Not really. If you cannot practice integrity and honesty, then any other virtue is out of reach for you, because it will all be based in a dishonest foundation. You abandon virtue completely when you do not practice unswerving rectitude. It's just the truth. Because without honesty and truth, you cannot have anything else that would be classified as a virtue. So in just that simple understanding alone, this is true. So even when those little white lies, that's what we were talking about. Yeah, honey, that looks great. Knowing you're full well lying. Guess what? It's not virtuous. That does not serve your partner. That does not serve your household. That does not serve God. I know it seems so small and ridiculous, but I believe that. I do believe that. As uncomfortable as it can make you, I do believe that. If you want your actions to mean something and your words to mean something, you have to practice this. Because anything else will just result in selfishness and self-centeredness. And virtues can only be continually practiced with honesty and with truth. So this rectitude thing has to be practiced at all times. Because most of the time when we, as he said, swerve from this, or swerve from the path of rectitude, and we deviate and we are dishonest in some way, it's always for personal gain or comfort, personal comfort. It's always about us, right? We like to frame it as about other people, but the reality of it is honesty and truth are always the appropriate choice. So anything other than that is a selfish thought and self-centered thought and action. It's not really much wiggle room here, like we said. So the next line, there must be no extravagance or exaggeration of speech, but the simple truth should be stated. So we're talking about truth and only the truth. And there's no embellishment that's ever appropriate. There's no exaggeration to make the story sound better. Don't make the story sound cool or over the top. Stop trying to one up your friends. Stop trying to be that guy at the party. Stop trying to be that coworker that is just filled with extravagant, ridiculous stories that are only have maybe 2% of truth in them, and the rest has been exaggerated and embellished, even if they believe it themselves, but it's been distorted in their own mind to the point where you can't even tell them that they're lying anymore, and they don't even know that they're lying anymore. Right? Don't exaggerate things. Don't add in anything. No extra extravagance, it says. Practicing integrity, like with your friend group, even though everyone likes to, oh, I got this, I got that, hunting stories, fishing stories, fast cars, money I'm making, whatever it is, everything can be exaggerated or embellished upon, right? But when you practice integrity in all things, your friends will be able to actually believe what you say, especially when they need to, especially when it's important to be believed. If you're willing to lie about such small, meaningless things, and how can you be trusted with the big things? How can you be given the responsibility of someone else, of the confidence of somebody else, when you can't even be believed in the stories that you tell? Right? Your friends won't believe you if you keep doing this. Your boss won't believe you. How many flat tires can you have? How many traffic jams can there be? Like these are the things where we don't even realize we're undermining the integrity. We're undermining our relationships with other people and institutions because we lack integrity, because we're always exaggerating, because we have this extravagance, this embellishment, this over the top mindset about things, and we are lying and we're being dishonest about them. How can our partners believe us? They don't know what's happening because they don't know what's coming out of your mouth is true. And that leads to so many conflicts with people because they realize they don't even know who they're with anymore. They don't even know who they're in love with, or if the person they're in love with is actually the person. When someone's so dishonest and they have to just lie and make up these fantastic stories just to feel desired or accomplished or impressive or whatever their ego is striving for in those moments, how can you trust them to actually give you honest feedback, to be truthful about what they're doing, or be truthful about their emotions, their intentions? Integrity and practicing integrity and not exaggerating the truth is the only way you can build solid foundations in your relationships. Like how we ended it with, the simple truth should be stated. Truth usually doesn't need more than that. Then he goes on to say, engaging in deception, no matter how apparently insignificant, for vainglory or with the hope of personal advantage, is a state of delusion which one should make effort to dispel. Here we go again. No matter how apparently insignificant, right? Engaging in deception, no matter how apparently insignificant, no matter how little that white lie is that you're trying to tell, no matter how much people won't even realize you're lying, no matter how inconsequential it might be, because it's a passing comment to someone at the supermarket. Something that I truly believe as well is that everything matters. Absolutely everything matters. to your integrity of character and who you actually are, right? Some people say that character is who you are when no one's looking, right? Or integrity is being the same person when no one is looking. I think that's what they say. And I believe that. And that's why I believe everything matters. Every action that you take, every word that you say, every thought that you hold matters. Do not dismiss something or belittle something because you don't want to take the time to look at it. You don't want to take the time to get in the uncomfortable conversation of saying, hey, I just lied about that. I'm sorry. This is a really crucial part of that concept of doing the work, right? We talk about that on this podcast. These doing the work conversations, those moments are found when you take a look at why you want to lie about something, why you want to manipulate somebody, why you want to change a behavior or change a situation that's to something that's untruthful, why you want to exaggerate, why you want to embellish, why you want to be extravagant. Why do you want to lie? Now, that's not always an easy answer to get to, but you have to if you want to grow spiritually. You have to be willing to take an honest look and an honest appraisal. You have to have the willingness and humility to say, I need to do better at this. I need to work on this. I need to give this to a God of my understanding. I need to see where this insecurity lies that causes me to want to do this. That is what growth looks like. That is what an inventory looks like. That is what an honest question to yourself will look like. And it's so crucial. To maintain our authenticity and our integrity. To be that person who to be the person we genuinely are at all times. Because if not, we'll just feel isolated. If not, we'll just feel cut off from the rest of the world. We'll feel like nobody cares and no one can really see us for who we are, and tell ourselves all of these lies because of that. And James Allen talks about that a little bit, actually. He says, engaging in deception of any sort is delusion. And I fully, 100% agree with that. Every time you lie or try to deceive or change or manipulate, you are stopping living in reality. You have taken an action that changes your specific reality. You have this fantasy world you are now living in. You are trying to manipulate reality, twist the fabric of reality, as some say, right? To serve your own selfish and self-centered needs. So you're not even living in a honest, real place. You're lost. And you've been lost. You're trying to compensate for fears and insecurities, or trying to advance your own selfish and self-centered motives to your own personal advantage, whatever it might be. That's not reality. That's a little world you're making up for yourself, built on a foundation of lies and deceit. And I can only say that because that's where I was for a very long time. I was the king of my own little world of depression, self-pity, and grandiosity. Because I had lied and cheated and manipulated and twisted things that I started to believe them myself. That delusion is real. And it's only unswerving rectitude that dispels it and brings us back to reality. honesty and truth result with integrity and authenticity. And that helps you sort through this world. Sort out you in this world more so. It's pretty amazing. He goes on to say it is demanded of the man of virtue that he shall not only practice the most rigid honesty in thought, word, and deed, but that he shall exact in his statements. He shall be exact in his statements, omitting and adding nothing to the actual truth. I think I might have just wrote that. He will be, I forgot the word be when I was writing the quote. He will be exact. He shall be exact in his statements, omitting and adding nothing to the actual truth. Here we go again. This is a huge statement. It's got a lot of expectations of behavior in this, doesn't it? Right? Firstly, Alan used the word demanded. He did not say suggested. He did not say consider or try. He said demanded. It is demanded of the man of virtue. If you want, well, I guess you don't have to do this if you don't want to be a virtuous man or a virtuous person. But if you want to be a virtuous person, it is demanded of you that you behave in these ways, that you take these actions, that you practice the most rigid honesty in thought, word, and deed. The most rigid honesty in thought, word, and deed. That's the ground floor we're getting on right there, he's saying. And I know whenever I talk about this, it's some get overwhelmed with it. Some think it's a really tall order, that it's very, very difficult thing, and it's almost an impossible feat to apply rigid honesty in thought, word, and deed. And I can tell you that it's not. I can tell you that, let me change that. I can tell you that though it is a lot of work, it is possible. And it is a worthwhile endeavor. Because that's the only way we grow. That's the only way we can actually feel authentic, is if we practice this rigid honesty. And most of us just crave authenticity, right? But we become so normalized to lying and manipulation and this sugarcoating on everything and this deceptive presentation that we're constantly given into. The societal norms, maybe is a better way to say it, has made us feel like it's impossible to do this. But I can tell you from my personal experience that the freedom you receive from practicing this is incredible. And it is possible. But it just takes some faith, some willingness, some honesty, some courage. But when you get started and you start to realize how impactful it can be, it's going to be hard to make you stop, let me tell you. Once you find truth, that's all you want to find. You just want more of it. You just want to pursue truth at all cost. Because when you find truth, you realize that's the only thing that's worthwhile. And unswerving rectitude is the doorway to that. And this practice of honesty, rigid honesty in thought, word, and deed is essential and vital to have virtuous character. You can't have any type of virtuous character without them, without the practice of this, without the practice of rigid honesty. And so this, again, just to reemphasize, this does not mean you're just doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing because you believe it's the right thing to do. And you've got to start at just doing the right thing, but not believing it matters or that it's right or you don't agree with it. That's perfectly fine. That's just where you have to be. That's where I had to start. But eventually you change it over to, this is the right thing. I'm going to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because someone told me to do it and I will despise it. The best part is, though, he says it's not only this. It's not only the rigid honesty in thoughts, word, and deed. He says we have to be exact in our statements and omitting and adding nothing to the actual truth. I talk about this a lot on this podcast because it seems to be a reoccurring theme in multiple different types of spiritual literature that I read, and I understand I'm probably prone to read certain types of literature. But this statement right here, we should speak exact in our statements. Be exact in our statements. We have to speak with intention. You have to choose your words and choose your words rightly. We have to speak with purpose. We don't want the filler. We don't want the fluff. We don't want empty, hollow conversations just for the sake of hearing noise in the air because we're uncomfortable with a silence. No manipulation. No changing of the story. Don't add. Don't subtract. Don't omit things to make it present a certain way. Don't add to it or embellish to give you to present you in a certain light. Do not do that. Speak the truth. And only the truth. Because the truth is enough. We need not shape it, form it. So it's hard for me to do at times because I'm scared I'm going to hurt someone's feelings. I'm scared my feelings are going to get hurt. I don't know if it's right sometimes, but I can remind myself honesty and integrity is always the right thing to do. And other people should be afforded the opportunity to know the truth and make a decision for themselves, not get a sugar-coated 30% removed truth and make a decision on a false piece of information. Sometimes fighting through the weeds on that is difficult. But just remember, the truth is enough. James Allen goes into next. In thus shaping his mind, again, we're up here, to the principle of rectitude. So our mind has had that firmly established. He will gradually come to deal with people and things in a just and impartial spirit, considering equity before himself and viewing all things with freedom from personal bias, personal passion, and personal prejudice. Wow. Isn't this what we all talk about all the time in society today? Isn't this what people are looking for? Isn't this what people are screaming for? A just and impartial spirit, considering equity before himself, viewing all things with freedom from personal bias, personal passion, and prejudice. Isn't that where we all want to be? What's amazing is when I read this, I was like, wow, this is what everyone is talking about they're looking for. And My experience says James Allen's never wrong, but I've never heard James Allen, this solution that he's just presented to achieve this, presented anywhere else. Practice unswerving rectitude, and you will get just an impartial spirit, equity before himself, and freedom from personal bias, passion, and prejudice. Everything that people argue for in politics, everything that people argue for in societies, every social justice warrior, every social justice movement, this is what they're looking for. Every community member, every lawyer, every judge, every person in a community. This is the character qualities we want embraced and imbued in our institutions and the individuals we interact with. This is what we're looking for. But no one's talking about unswerving rectitude or anything of the same. We've missed the mark on this. We're trying to legislate honesty, and that will never work. We're trying to legislate equality, and that's never going to work. It just won't. I just wanted to also define what equity was from my 1920s dictionary, and it is justice and impartiality. So what James Allen is saying here, if you want to view every person and every situation as an unbiased, just, and impartial person, then this is how you do it. This is how you achieve that. If you want no characteristics of the individual, like race or creed or religion or gender or sexual preference, to be considered, which it shouldn't be, a human being is a human being. To get those values, those principles, those character traits and characteristics, you have to practice unswerving rectitude. Unswerving rectitude, not unserving. Unswerving rectitude. This principle of rectitude is how we achieve this as a people and community. Because once a person gets this in their mind, and when a person starts practicing this in their life, and they've purified their heart, and then they go and participate in local government or in their community in some way, they bring that with them. They bring that into whatever office that they might hold, right? So this has to be personal decisions. This has to be a personal responsibility taken on by people and then brought with them as these institutions, should they be rebuilt from the ground up by people that are embracing this practice of unswerving rectitude, by people that have dropped the shackles of their old biases, prejudices, and passions, right? By people that want to see people impartially and justly. We need to shape the mind with this principle of unswerving rectitude to get this perspective and outlook. And that is the only way you can do it. And then we hear this word freedom at the end of that section there. I love it. That freedom word. We have bound ourselves and we have shortchanged ourselves and we have harmed ourselves and others because we are shackled by old ideas. We are controlled by beliefs established in the heart of a 4-year-old. that didn't know any better. We act on lessons given to us by parents that didn't know they were teaching. And we were only 10. We don't realize how impactful this stuff is until we want to be objective and we want to be impartial, until we want to have justice. Real justice. We don't realize how chained we are to our old thinking and our old ideas. But that does get broken through unswerving rectitude. Now, the last part of this reading. When the virtue of rectitude is fully practiced, acquired, and comprehended, so that all temptation to untruthfulness and insincerity has ceased, then is the heart made purer and nobler. Then is character strengthened and knowledge enlarged, and life takes on new meaning and new power. We have to practice this. Now, we talked about it. I was demanded of a man of virtuous character or a person of virtuous character, right? Like, we have talked about that, right? But Alan knows that, like, this is going to be new. This is going to be a new concept. This is going to go against a lot of what we believe and we know already, right? This is going to be a problem for most people. So it is going to be a practice of unswerving rectitude until it becomes firmly established in the mind and fully practiced and acquired and comprehended, right? That will only come through the practice of it. That will only come through the consistent and intentional effort to practice it. And the more we work at this and the more we apply it everywhere in our lives, the purer the heart will be. And the more resilient we will be, and we will start to see this world differently. The selfishness and the self-centeredness that we harbor in our innermost parts of our soul and our heart are changed. We are changed. Instead of trying to selfishly take from things and take from our communities and take from the people that love us and surround us, we will be looking to be of service to them. We will be looking to give to them. We will be wondering what we can bring to this world. That is that new meaning. And not only will we wonder what we can bring, but we will know we can bring something. And that is the new power. We're not wasting it on trying to just take and serve ourselves. We're trying to take this willpower, this integrity, these virtues that we have, this strength of character and resiliency that this principle has blessed us with, and we have strength to give, finally, instead of a desperation to take. I'll warn you, the practice of this principle will change you. Which, if you're listening to this podcast, you want to change. You want to grow. You want to embrace that spiritual way of living, and I understand that. And this principle specifically, when thoroughly and vigorously applied, will change your life. And I fully encourage you to do that. Start small, but move quickly, because you don't know what you're missing out on. So, there we go. I love that reading. I don't know if it gets conveyed through the actual podcast or the actual episode, but I absolutely love that reading. It is a crucial piece of my recovery, sobriety, spirituality, philosophy, outlook on life. And it has guided me well. So I encourage everybody, give this a shot. Now, next week will be the last step. It will be step 10. And the last step, which is the third step in the third lesson, step 10, is unlimited forgiveness. That's going to be a good one. So thank you, everybody, for the subscribers, for the followers, for the likes, for the shares, for the whatever platform you're watching it on. I really appreciate the support, and I am always grateful to see this channel grow. I love getting this type of information in front of people, and I hope it helps you as much as it helps me. So thank you so much again for your support, and I look forward to finishing up this series with you next week. So until next time, thanks.